This is David Burdekin, long lost brother of mine, not been seen in England for a while because he lives in Germany now. So joining me today for a chat just to see what's happening in Germany, what the latest is on lockdown. My main sort of thing that I want to talk about today is changes that have happened during lockdown because they've been forced onto businesses. Things like business travel and working from home, and whether we think some of those might be sustainable after lockdown. Now, Dave, you tell us a bit about your job, because there's quite a bit of travel involved in your job, isn't there?
Well, yes. I mean, the job I do is a procurement function, and I'm responsible for a number of different suppliers and also different units or plants. So they're spread across the globe. And of course, we try to visit those as often as we can. Right now, there's no business travel since, at least in Germany, the lockdown started around about, I think it was mid to end of March. Yeah. So there's all that's been stopped, which has meant a rapid increase in the number of web conferences, phone conferences we've been doing. But you notice that if you're not able to get to see some people, whether it's internal colleagues or the supplier side within, let's say, a 6 to 9 month period, then that makes the relations a little bit more strained. In terms of, is it going to change afterwards? I think because of the struggle the airlines have got. I mean, I was reading just this week that Air France has requested a 7 billion euro aid program for the French government. Lufthansa are discussing 10 billion of aid with the German government, and if those packages go through, that just shows the state they're in. So when they're able to open their doors and start flying again, the airline experts seem to be predicting that there's going to be quite a sharp hike in the prices of flying.
I just think, if these big companies, it's the same, with automotive and all sorts of related industries, if they're requiring huge bailouts to survive this, it makes me wonder whether actually, and I've worked a lot of my career in the automotive industry, so, fully support it. But if they're at the point where they need those big bailouts to survive, should we actually be saying, we've got this opportunity now, maybe it's time for a quick time out, and rather than invest money that could be really great for everyone's future, rather than put it into industries which potentially are failing, why don't we put it into, better infrastructure at home, people for more flexible working, things that are more sustainable for the future, green energy?
Yeah. No, it's an interesting question, particularly, automotive is something which affects, I would imagine, a number of countries across the globe, particularly Germany. It must be one of their largest industries in terms of the people employed, the revenues generated and so on. And they're talking about not just state help to give them money to sort of support the people who are on short time, but also trying to offer sort of, some money back premiums to help people buy cars. I mean, I think the people who are currently doing short time work or have been laid off or sent home temporarily because they're on sort of a non-permanent contracts, then by the time they get back to work, I think the last thing they're going to do is buy a car. Right. So it's interesting, they're trying to keep the car industry going because they're so reliant upon it in Germany. Yeah. But there's a lot of people asking the question, why aren't we putting that money into home working? Is one thing, but the automatic alternative choice would be, public transport.
It just feels like now's a good time to take a bit of a breath and say, actually, we've been forced into this and it's been atrocious. But while we've got this opportunity, we've realised that a lot of things can work differently. And actually, maybe families don't need 2 cars, and you don't need to be on business travel all the time, and we don't need this. Maybe it's a good time to make some changes that stick around.
Yeah, it is interesting, however, when I've spoken to the people, like on the supplier side, we've got a number of, negotiations coming up right now. And depending on the cultures, I wasn't aware of this. I mean, I've been doing this role for nearly a year and a half and learned an awful lot about Chinese culture and the Japanese and Koreans. And my counterpart, who's a Korean guy based in Germany, was telling us that they're the trading house for this particular steel mill in Korea. And he said, well, to be honest, we may have to do a number of the rounds without them even because it's a web conference or phone conference, because in their culture, or in our culture, as speaking as South Korean, it's not something people are very keen on. So even though they're technologically quite advanced and they have all that available, they're not big fans of it culturally.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how we get over that hurdle. But of course, there's certain examples which may be few and far between. Yeah. But I agree. I think on the whole that there will be a review of those kind of topics of, is it really necessary business travel or not? Yeah. And we should be finished quicker if everything goes well. So it'll make it more effective from a time point of view, I would hope. And we'll see how it goes.
No, I think it's right when you said at the start, you know, that especially when you're in negotiations and things, there's such a human element to it, isn't there, in relationships. Mm-hmm. So yeah. There will always be that need to meet people in person and discuss and, you know, kind of form that relationship together. But I think it would be really interesting if some of the, you know, businesses that do a lot of business travel, it would be great if they could whittle that down to really key sort of moments in that process, and then say, right, from there on in, we could do remotely. Last question: what's been the worst thing about lockdown? What's two questions really? Worst thing and best thing about lockdown. You can be honest.
So I would say, let me see. Best thing about lockdown, I would say it's been an eye opener in terms of the way you can mix, you know, helping out the family, and it's been, with our particular example, good to have a look at what the children are doing in more detail for school, to help them a little bit on the way. And it's been more work for us, but it's been quite rewarding. So that's been for me the best aspect. The worst bit is just the simple things like, family and friends. So of course, if you've got your poker group or the mother-in-law who likes to come round and do some ironing and bring a cake, all that's been off the cards.
That's gone.
That's gone for a start. So that I've missed that in a big way. And some things you can't do. You can't really, people tell you can make poker games on the internet with Zoom like we're doing today, but I'm not sure it works really, no. And usually someone's cooked something for that. So the meeting up of friends and family, although it's only been about 8 weeks here in Germany, we're looking forward to that being turned around quite soon. Yeah,
that's it. It's just that physical connection with people, isn't it? I think if I had to sum it up, it would just be pub.
The pub. We've been doing a lot of home drinking, of course. It's
just the, you know, standing sort of arm in arm and, you know, laughing, joking, and the kind of physical hugs, giggles. You know, it's you just sat looking at your phone after a while. It's not quite the same, is it? But right, well, we'll do a big wave to the main screens and speak to you soon.
All right, let me know when it's online.
I will do, absolutely. I'll tag you on LinkedIn.
Great. Okay, thanks. Right. Have a good weekend. Cheers, Rach.
And you. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.